How are you guys doing today?
Yeah.
Good. This is the first recording of 2025, so it should be a very exciting year. What'd you guys do? I know what you did.
So that you should know.
Okay, I got to introduce for the people that are watching on audio or doing audio and the videos. So I got Mark. People know you because also you're one of the most interesting people on my podcast because of the stuff that we talk about.
According to who?
No, a lot of people because it's the science stuff, like the stuff we talk about. But usually, like, you know how like in science classes, it's like usually kind of boring or this and that. But you make it very, very interesting.
Well, you're asking about the more cutting edge stuff, and I think that's a little more interesting to people than the DNA is an RNA and basic things they learn in the high school.
Yeah, because people don't really talk about, because I feel like in school, no, it's probably different. I still think it's different. Like if you're in, like, for example, in college, it could be more interesting because some of those professors, you can ask them that stuff and it's, oh, snap, that stuff, it relates to it or some sci-fi. But like before that, like let's say K through 12, it's mostly like the generic stuff. It's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it depends.
We talked about fun stuff in the high school too. You have to make it exciting and entertaining sometimes, at least. Mm-hmm. I usually try to do that in the beginning of a lesson. I'll say, this is what we could do with it. So like in genetics, like we could cure a lot of diseases by transplanting the organs or whatever. I'll teach them show them that we can take extracellular matrix and then add stem cells to the organ and make a brand new organ from scratch, basically. And then we go into all the smaller details that are a little more tedious and memorizing stuff. You can do that everywhere, though.
It's exciting. And then I got introduced. So I got my wife, Myra. This is actually, I think, your fifth. This is the fifth time? Fifth or fourth?
It's the fourth.
Fourth? Did I just say fourth?
This, you say fifth. This is the fourth, I think.
So this is the fourth one?
I think so.
Okay. And then I wanted to get all of us together because we're all friends, and usually, you come to our house and then we have like these discussions. And it's fun. It's fascinating. And I get like a different perspective because I don't want to say I was trained in like the biology stuff, but I guess kind of. I understand more of the concepts more than I think the average person, but I'm still not that level. And then I feel like you're more of the common person. I'm not bringing you down. I'm just saying more of the common stuff.
More down.
Less background. That's just, it's always hard to determine what the background level of your audience is. Well, you have to try to adjust for that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think so. But I'm gonna dive in like just straight into.
All right.
Have you seen? Are you familiar with like a video game series or a movie called Assassin's Creed? Have you heard about it?
Yeah, vaguely familiar with it.
Are you familiar with it? You heard it? But do you know what's it about?
No, I only hear about it because when the Notre Dame Museum got on fire, they used the renders from Assassin's Creed to back up.
Yeah. So Assassin's Creed.
You know that?
No, I did not.
Because I'm explaining it real quick. So if at first glance the game, you're in like a different timelines. Not each game is different. Like sometimes, I know the first one was more like, I think in like 1500s. There's one that you're in Egypt. You're an assassin. And there's one that you're in, you're in the Japanese samurai era. There's another one you're the pirate. Stuff like that. The Assassin's Creed 2, you're more in the Renaissance. Yeah. Renaissance era. So you're to me like Michelangelo. There's one Assassin's Creed 3, you're in with the era of the colonial period. Stuff like that.
So they're time travelers?
Kind of. So I thought at first you're just playing as a character in the historical or whatever historical
context.
Era. But this is where the question comes in. So you're actually in the first 3 games, you're actually a normal person in the real life. You use this machine, and this machine is using memories, like a genetic memory, and it kind of takes you to that place, and then you're playing as, I guess, an ancestor. So my question is,
that sounds like the video game or whatever system they use in the 3-body problem. TV show. It doesn't sound
Yes.
like, because I don't know the game, but
It's similar.
it sounds like
I think there's a lot of
video game
movies.
Okay.
style that they show in the three-body problem.
But my question is, is it possible? Is there such thing as like a genetic memory? Like, can you take, everyone has ancestors, but can you take something from right now and do something and then like see a memory from the past? Is that possible or probably too much?
So your memories are stored in molecules in your neurons. So you would have to kind of remap that person's brain into the next generation or whatever. So that's not really like a whole memory. You can't really do that. The instincts that we have are encoded in the formation of the neurons. So I guess maybe there might be a way to kind of do it, but I doubt you'd preserve all the information.
Okay, but no way
But it'd be really, really, really hard to do.
no way to I'm in a machine and then you could, I don't know, something's projecting like my ancestors, hey, we're watching like how they were living because my ancestor did this. It's too much out there.
You'd have to map every single neuron and synapse, every connection of those neurons, which is called a synapse, and then get it to grow a new brain or pathway in that specific manner, and it just yeah.
What about that three-body problem thing you were talking about?
Oh, that's
Why
about aliens.
But why was it similar?
Because the aliens send you like a headset, like the Oculus headset, and then you use it and you gotta save that population. Is the population. You gotta save the
NPCs?
world. No, it's not NPCs. So it starts with people in China, like scientifics in China, can communicate with somebody else
Aliens.
in another world, and then they don't want to communicate. But one of the ladies she doesn't agree with how the world is right now, so she communicates with them and say, if you are out there, save us or something like that. And then they start communicating back and forth. And the way that they get scientifics now, like physicists, is they send a headset, and then when you put it on, it takes you to kind of like a 4-dimension video game where you have to save that era.
But they're just trying to recruit people, right? If they could solve the problem.
So they are trying to get all the information and the like technology that we have. So they are like super smart, but it's kind of their world is ending or something. I don't quite understand what's going on with their world. They're coming to this world to kill everyone. You take a few that work for them and make like a perfect world.
Okay. But going back to the other one, there is a way to go like the time. I don't know if it's time travel, but let's say I'll give an example. So, the dinosaur stuff or the dinosaurs, when did they die out?
65 million years ago.
So right now, if you're in a
We still have some.
no, oh yeah, that part's true. Right now, though, if there's a planet that's 65 million miles away right now, and if right now they're looking through for some reason some telescope, they could see.
They would see the dinosaurs. Yep.
Okay, because it's the light, right?
Yep.
Travels.
Takes 65 million light years to get there. That's the light. That's why we can look back into the universe and see all the way back to around 300,000 years after the origin of the universe, because it took that long for the light to get to us.
So if we can see like that, if we're looking that far, we're not looking at what it looks like currently. We're looking to the past.
Yep.
Can you look to the future?
That light has not been emitted yet. So, and there's a lot of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle basically says you can't know the velocity and the position of a particle, so we can't really predict the future. You can never know them both at the same time. You can only know its position or its velocity. But
Okay. Is there a way to, because it would be hard to communicate, like, because you can't communicate at the same moment because it's just too far.
the way that you could communicate is something called quantum entanglement. So you can move one particle, its spin, you can spin it one way and you can detect exactly what happened with the other, its paired particle. So if you took that particle and you had it entangled with another particle light years away, you would get instantaneous communication. The Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, and it took a lot of convincing and experimental evidence to get him to actually believe that was real. Because he's like, no way, that can't happen, because the theory of relativity basically rules that out. But they did some experiments and they showed that it is a thing. Quantum entanglement. Yeah, and they did it recently. No, I'm thinking of a transporter. They recently transported a particle to outer space. So they've had transporter technology. So taking one particle and transporting it to another place. They did that in the 90s, I think. But now they're getting way further than that.
Now, like in Star Trek levels.
Yeah, they have to start with just particles first. Okay. They'll work their way up to multiple particles, but right now. But
We will get
you were talking about memory, transferring memory. There's some technology where they can actually read your mind now. They've been doing that for quite some time. So they'll put on a little electrode thing on your head, and then they'll show you a picture of and you'll look at the picture, and then they'll read your electrical signaling and they'll reconstruct the picture strictly from what you're thinking about onto the screen. So they can literally read your mind for what you're seeing.
Because that would make sense, because it's just like a pattern,
signal.
like some type of pattern.
They are reconstructing the picture, or they are able to say what you're thinking.
They have no idea. You're looking at, it could be any picture, and they have no idea what picture you're looking at.
Yeah, but the picture or whatever they reproduce on the screen is what you are thinking, or is the picture?
It's what you're thinking. It's what you're thinking.
So what you're looking at, like, so if you show me like a picture of a dog, they put the sensors on me or whatever, and whatever my brain is or whatever, when I'm looking at it, it's firing something.
Yep.
In that same pattern, that means, hey, he's looking at this. Because if I look at something else, it would technically be different. And then you could kind of check it.
But
right?
I can look at picture, and what if I'm thinking about something else while looking at the picture? Like, I don't know, I see a picture of my daughter when she was born, and maybe I'm not thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about the day that she was born, like what happened before or after. So will they be able to see what I'm thinking, or they are going to see a picture of my daughter?
It's probably going to be whatever you're thinking about. And it's not like you can just walk around and look at a whole bunch of stuff and think about a bunch of things and they can read your mind. They say, focus on this picture, really focus on it. It's not, but there are, I mean, they've got some tools out there for like handicapped people where they can actually do that at higher speeds. It's still not super as fast as you're thinking, because the computer has to process everything, but it's getting there.
Because that would be perfect for like let's say you're, I don't know, paralyzed or a vegetable or something like that. If you can't communicate, they could do that, and they could kind of see what's going on.
Like Stephen Hawking, because he couldn't walk, and he didn't have I forget the technology he had, but I would imagine the caps would have worked for something for him.
Stephen Hawking, he died before seeing like the first image of a black hole, right? Remember there's image?
Yep.
Okay.
Sagittarius A star, I think, our black hole.
I want to think that, because he was kind of obsessed with that.
Well, it's his research.
Yeah. he Hawking's radiation. I mean,
so before that picture, it was just, I don't want to say speculation, because it's different in the science field, but
mathematical.
Hypothesis?
But they there was no like physical evidence about a black hole, right?
You had the gravity. I mean, you could see whenever, like at the center of our galaxy, there's a black hole, and you can see the stars when they get closer to it, they get accelerated, and that's just following the laws of gravity. But we don't see anything there, so you know that the black hole is there based on its gravity, and you can see how fast the stars accelerate, and that tells you how massive the black hole is too.
In a black hole, so light can't escape, right? It will go. You can't escape from a black hole, right?
Hawking's his theory was that there is some radiation emitted from a black hole. So, but light, for our purposes, yes, nothing can escape.
Okay. Inside it, though, what happens on the inside? Do they know that?
Space and time are stretched, and the equations end up running into infinities. But it's a curvature that space and time stretch. They're malleable, and that's why time is relative, because your spatial it is stretched, and the time it takes to get across there is different then. But at a black hole, everything gets stretched. It's called a singularity. It's stretched to almost infinite, and you can basically never get to the center of that black hole. And even as you enter it, the time and space are stretched so much that your toes and your head are experiencing such extreme differences in space and time. They call it spaghettified, and you just get stretched out. So technically, you never really get into the.
Oh, okay.
And time is slowing down, and relativistically, and you just.
Have you heard about those, like, this is where I'm gonna go way off topic on, like, not even scientific, but like some of those theories where they say inside like a black hole, it's probably another universe, or it's probably, that's when it's one of those big bangs. So there's always like a big bang and something like multiverse or different stuff. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. I doubt that it's another universe or anything. The origin of a universe, there's a few different mathematical models for that, and I don't think they really agree with a black hole being the origin of it.
We talked about it before, but I am interested. Before the universe, I won't get political or too religious on this, but like before it, like how did this, or for you, Mark, that how did it like start, or we just don't know? Or is there is there any theories?
There are some. Okay, so anytime you have to have evidence and data to support anything, to say something. In science, you have to have something to support your hypotheses. And a lot of the times the mathematicians are usually the ones who create the hypotheses first. So like Higgs, he won the Nobel Prize recently. He did a bunch of math saying that, there's probably this field out there that's giving everything mass. And the super collider at CERN, one of the most expensive pieces of equipment ever designed, it collides particles together really, really at super, super high energies. They were able to prove that the Higgs field actually exists. So the mathematicians will make hypotheses, and then they look for out in the real world to see if there's anything showing that this is accurate and true. And so there are a couple mathematical models of how the universe came into existence, and those also make predictions about what you can see in the universe. And one of them says that as the universe, the unevenness of it at the beginning leaves a pattern on what they call the cosmic microwave background radiation. So there's that's another hard one I got to explain. I've got it in my room here, a little globe of showing it.
Simplify it for normal people.
So when you have something, we'll say it's an explosion. It's not really an explosion, but you've got expanding, really, really hot, expanding universe.
Like when you blow a balloon, it's more like
Yes, yep. You blow it up, but this is super, super heated. And if it's all the same energy in all the same directions, it should be the same temperature everywhere. So as it cools, it'll all be uniform. But some of the mathematical models talking about how the universe began also say that if their model is right, you'll see a whole bunch of slightly cooler, more or more dense regions, and that's what they see in the cosmic microwave background radiation. So there's a little bit of data that does support some of these models, and those models are based on the most popular, the leading ones are based on something called string theory, and that's where you have the strings and membranes. Basically, it's what makes up the universe are these brains, their dimensions. So what is it? What is the dimension? We'll start with that. So you have three-dimensional objects. Our brains can comprehend that. We have up, down, left, right, forward, backward. You can go in three opposing directions.
X, Y,
and Z axes. Yep. Then you have 2 dimensions. So if you have a flat piece of paper, you now can only go forward, backward, left, or right. So you have 2 directions you can really go. And then you have 1 dimension, which is an infinitely small line. So all you can do is go forward and back. Well, the other theories, the leading physical theories were having some problems with the math. So then this guy named Ed Witten comes along and he says, well, all your theories are actually right. You're just all looking at them the wrong way. And he showed the math, how it works actually, and they came up with, they call it M theory. And that theory says it's in science, a theory is something supported by all of our current data. So there's nothing saying that this is wrong. And it says that there's 11 dimensions. So think about that. So a single 1 dimension is forward and back. And then 2 is left and right, forward and back. And then 3, you can go up and down. What other directions are there?
Just time is the other one.
Time is 1. But then if there's 11, what other... I mean, our brains cannot physically comprehend what another dimension would even look like. So try to explain up and down to someone who lives on a piece of paper. They call them flatlanders. So if you draw a person on a piece of paper, how do you explain up and down to that person in a flat world?
Yeah.
Their brains, there's just no way to do it. So our brains can't comprehend higher dimensions, but the math says that they're there. So these dimensions, and these brains, these fields, they collide, they generate enormous amounts of energy. If you go out in empty space, it's not really empty. There's little vibrations all over the place. And there's particles and coming into existence and going out of existence. And they're just little vibrations of the underlying physicality of the universe. And there's enormous amounts of energy in those. So you think about what's the most powerful thing you can think of?
Powerful?
The most powerful thing.
Atomic bomb?
Atomic bombs. And how much material do you need to make an atomic bomb? You only need like 10 pounds of uranium to build this thing that will release enough energy to blow up cities and enormous regions. Well, antimatter is even more powerful than that. So if you have, at CERN, that super collider I talked about, well, they make antimatter. So it's a a particle that if it comes into collides with regular matter, it annihilates that matter. So it destroys things. But it releases enormous amounts of energy. So much so that, like, if you had enough antimatter the size of my fist, it would blow up the Earth. That's how much antimatter you need to blow up the Earth, just a little softball size. So, and that's literally, we're talking just invisible little particles, So you go down to these smaller and smaller levels, they're storing enormous energy. That it's just almost impossible to fathom how much energy is stored there. But these brains, when they collide, they'll release enormous amounts of energy, and that will generate, they do the math, and it shows that it would be just what you'd need to create all of the visible material that we can see in the universe. And the cooling is the cold spots and the condensation of matter is kind of the evidence for that being the correct model, one of the correct models. And I might not have explained it perfectly. I might have mixed up some things, but that's the general idea. If you
happen, like that will be the Big Bang, kind of.
Yeah, that's the underlying mechanism behind the Big Bang, the leading model for it.
So I don't know if this will be even like a question, like how. See, if we need the size of a softball ball to blow up the air, we need the size of a softball ball to create the air, according to that theory.
I guess that was just an analogy to explain how much energy there is stored in really, really small scales.
Yeah, but like I'm talking about like. I guess what I want to ask is what was there before the Big Bang? Like, was
just emptiness? Was there another universe?
The brains. These are they're kind of like field not vectors, but the other word. Drawn a blank on the word.
Is it like those?
They're fields. So the Higgs field is the underlying field that gives everything its mass.
It's probably just because we can't comprehend.
Our brains can't really understand what they really are. We're still trying to figure out what they are.
The theory is that mass, you cannot create or destroy mass. It will only transform. So in order to create the universe, the air, let's start with the air. Of course, part of a universe, but let's just think about the air like in a smaller scale. There has to be a mass before the air to become the air.
So what is mass?
I mean, I guess it's
matter, right?
Yeah, that you can.
So what is matter?
Like a solid. I think about matter like a solid something.
That's what we do think about matter that way, but in reality, they call it the wave particle duality. I feel the particle duality part. I don't really think I think we can kind of rule out the particles. The particles are really just vibrations. They're little waves, and once that waves gets big enough, it peaks and it acts like a point particle. So matter.
Say that particles are matter itself, like each particle.
Everything is just a vibration in these brains. If you go into empty space, it's not really empty because there's little vibrations, and particles come into existence, out of existence via this vibrations. And during particle collisions, you create particles, and then the particles, antiparticles, and all kinds of crazy.
Usually. Cooking and
just
kitchen stuff to kind of explain myself and stuff. So I want to think like particles as if I am making a cake. My particles or whatever is going to create that matter, which is going to be my cake.
Think about it more as a liquid. So when you shake a drink, those waves on the surface of that drink, those would represent kind of particles. The wave, when it's peaking upward, as it's going up and peaking, that would be your particle.
But still, like
It's hard to
it is.
it's a hard
I'm
analogy.
thinking about the liquid right now. Like speaking about your glass, you cannot create those waves if that glass was empty. Can you?
That's the point. Is the universe are these brains and these dimensions. That's what they are, and you pull them apart, and they're still just empty. Empty space is literally just an empty brain not shaking. But where do you?
It's something, right?
Is the when you say like they're coming in and out into existence, but they're still in the universe, or they're just out, or they're gone?
All particles are the universe.
Okay,
So it's just a vibration in the universe.
the 11 dimensions. You said 11, right?
Yeah.
Or is that still part of the universe, like this universe?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, well, let's clarify it. What are you trying to ask, babe? Or what are you trying to know?
I'm not trying to ask anything. I'm just trying to understand or like comprehend. Because in my head, to create something, there has to be something before.
Because of the laws of
And there were-
thermodynamics, right?
There,
Much,
there were brains.
because if I want to make a cake, as I said before, I need different ingredients, but all the ingredients itself are not going to make the cake. There has to be something happening, including like the heat. There is an external energy to the ingredients that will solidify the eggs and make whatever has to be made with the eggs, the milk, the oil, the flour, all that stuff. So what I'm trying to ask is, if there was an explosion or a collision that created the universe, it cannot come out of nothing. So there was something still there before the universe was created.
One of the things me and Marv were talking about was maybe like the stuff is just probably there. Because one thing about like the Big Bang, that you correct me if I'm wrong, but the explanation is people think it's more like an explosion. So it's more like the stuff is already kind of like the material, the ingredients are already there.
Yeah, it's what I'm thinking. Like
It wasn't really an explosion, but it was an expansion
But we're trying to figure out
in the
before that, like how
field.
was it there? But it's not like
for example, to make a human, you need an egg and a sperm.
Mhm.
But then you need different variations like that will help that egg and a sperm to form a human. So we cannot say that we come only from an egg and a sperm. Technically we do, but then there is different things working around.
The environment. So let's
Yes.
say the placenta.
Yeah, it's not like we have a heart and we have a kidney here and we start putting them together. It's not like that.
it's transform. I don't know if something.
It's transforming.
Transforming, yeah.
Yeah, so from those two little things, we can make a full human being.
Mm.
But they're still getting more into it because if you don't, I mean, I guess
There's lots of signaling cues. Yeah. So
Yes.
molecules that are external that signal it to start. But other species don't require all that external stuff. But a lot of
it doesn't, but you still have to give external stuff like I won't say food, something is nutrients into that.
your yolk sac will
But
have the food.
what if like, because I understand it, but what if like in the beginning, like I understand what they say, well, how can we count on nothing? But maybe there wasn't like a nothing, it was just already there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So before that,
Before there was something, what was there?
yeah, what was there?
So that's where we need to define the universe differently. So the universe, we have this really bad definition of the universe right now, I think, in the general populace. And even in science, we need another word for what you're thinking of the universe as. So the universe itself is everything that we can see that was generated at the same time as everything else. So the universe, 13.8 billion years old. So everything we can see that generated from that is what we consider the universe, our light bubble and
like right here.
beyond.
That's what we're
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. So it's the bubble of our universe. But really, what's beyond our universe is kind of what we think of as the universe. So we kind of need another definition for our universe and everything beyond that, our universe. I mean, that we need a new word. And everything outside of our universe that we're thinking right now is what you're trying to figure out what's out there. And we don't know, but the math said that there's probably brains, these fields out there.
Is it possible, because you were saying before that it's all this data that supports this is what is there.
It's, just the
Even when
most
we are
likely
able to
thing.
comprehend that
Yeah.
that's the data. Is it possible that the data is lying? Like, it has happened before with different things.
Yeah.
Well, is it possible that in this case, it might just be something like, how when you have like a code for a computer, one small little thing can mess everything up.
Yep.
But
Is that possible?
Is it in science? And correct me, Mark. Stuff could change, right?
Yeah.
Evidence could change because there's been a lot of.
Anytime you get new evidence, you'll then have to reformulate your hypotheses. The thing about in the past, it was pretty common. But now in modern science, if you have a theory, so a theory is supported by all of our current data. It's one of those, it's firmly supported. So you don't really have theories going bad anymore. You have hypotheses going bad, but it's like, I think my protein does this, but it doesn't. But theories are supported by all the evidence we have thus far.
One of them, I'm thinking about it because what was back a long time ago? They said, like with the blood and this and that, there was like an energy or 3 different types of thing, and it kind of evolved into, now we got like our lymph. You kind of follow me? Remember that? Like doctors used to think that. This was like
So we're talking a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it evolved more.
And science can change. Anytime you get new data that says your old theories are wrong, then you change that theory. You get rid of it. But the thing about modern times is our data, we've got so much data that's supporting these things that usually you don't throw out the whole theory. You make adjustments to that theory. So I think that my protein is going to phosphorylate this other protein, and I have some evidence showing that, but then I find out that it's phosphorylating at this other site. So I adjust my small theories. The theories are usually the bigger scale things, but they're supported by most data. So you're not going to usually find anything that's going to totally destroy a theory. You can change it a little bit, but that's why hypothesis and theory, those are 2 very different things in science compared to what the normal public says. Normal public says a theory is just a theory. You don't really know. That's in science, the theory is supported by everything we know. And it's probably not going to be wrong. It'll probably get adjusted a little bit. Okay. So if you find new data, you change the theory's adjustments, like turning the volume up or down a little bit, or tone or bass or whatever.
I'm gonna implement one of the things that you mentioned, like if they could be wrong, like you're a virus guy, you like viruses, you know about that. Back, I don't even know the year, but like I remember you're watching a video or reading on it that it was very, like they were saying, because they didn't know about bacteria or viruses, like the small stuff, and it was very hard to convince, especially like the doctors and them, say, hey, there's, kind of
a virus is smaller. Most viruses are smaller than a wavelength of light. So your light microscopes cannot see viruses. So people realized there were viruses there before they could even see them. Now we have electron microscopes, so you fire electrons, which are smaller than light, at the object, and you can make a drawing or a physical representation of them based on the electron patterns. So now we can see things smaller than light, but they predicted that viruses were there, and it ended up, yes, they are there. They cause tons of diseases.
And you just had to kind of convince some of these people, because there was also another one with like doctors. They had, Donna and I were watching it. It was doctors that were helping with like childbirth, but they didn't wash their hands before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like there was a lot of mortality, and then I think they had like the nurses, they were doing it, and I think some doctor was saying, maybe let's wash our hands or something like that, and they noticed, hey, they're not dying, but then it was like kind of hard to convince the doctors, because the doctor's like, so you're saying we're killing them? So it was a weird.
Public sanitation actually increased life expectancy more than most scientific discoveries. I mean, just
Washing your
just basic sanitation in like the 20s, I think it was. We see a huge explosion of the population, 30s or whatever. But it's just about sanitation.
So that's just
water, sewage, yeah.
It was, because nowadays, could that also be a bad thing though? Like, we're washing our hands, we're being clean. And we talked about it before, but could it also be a bad thing? Something like immune system or this and that, or you think?
Because we disrupt like the natural bacteria.
Yeah,
in there.
you hear that like,
Yeah.
It's more.
I have heard that a lot when it comes to the beauty industry, like skincare, hair care and stuff. That, oh yeah, you shouldn't wash your hair every day because then you disrupt the natural stuff. I think that's
It's
probably, but I don't.
I like to say, whenever health comes in, most of the time it's going to be context. It depends on the context. You can't just have a catch-all. So washing your hands with soap is bad. You just can't. You can't say that. I mean, it depends. There's certain viruses that if you get, you die. So you don't want to get those. So washing your hands keeps you alive from those. But you do have good bacteria, say, in your gut. So that's why when you take antibiotics, you might get sick because you're killing off the good gut bacteria that you need.
Fighting cancer. Of course, you're killing those.
You're killing the cancer, but
you're killing some other cells too.
So there's
It could be like that.
There's probably also the risk and reward.
exactly. Yeah.
There's also, that could be the same with like vaccines too, right? Or all vaccines pretty good.
Modern vaccines are very well regulated and tested. So they go through 3 rounds of clinical trials. Well, they go through clinical trials in animals, and then they'll go through 3 rounds in humans, and then they still...
The COVID vaccines.
The COVID vaccines are exceptionally safe. We've had millions and billions of doses given out, and
okay, stay with me.
okay, efficacy.
I'm usually I'm all right with the vaccines.
Yeah, me too.
But
That COVID vaccine.
this is
I'm not sure.
this is probably more anecdotal though.
Yeah,
And I'll give my
that's-
opinion.
That's the hard part.
We got the COVID vaccine stuff a few years ago when it came out.
I've been getting them because I
Yeah.
have to.
Because you have, 'cause you're a resident. But so it was either that one or the booster. But we got it after we got sick. After that, did you hear something about like heart problems or heart? I swear, after that, I think it was. I don't know if it was after I got it, the booster, or after I got COVID or the combo. Yeah, I had that problem like with the breathing.
But
like
I
taking a
want
deep
to
breath.
say, and I'm not saying I'm
But I
not
feel fine.
diminishing your experience. You're kind of hypochondriac.
Probably
Because if you read in Google that you might have cancer, you think you have cancer.
because I get mine from
Yeah.
from the internet. But give your experience though.
Okay, so outside my experience, that was way too fast. And that was a lot of push to get the vaccine. And it was a lot of involvement from the government. And for me, it was too much interest, kind of suspicious interest in the government getting the vaccines, the COVID vaccines. And also is like, so for previous vaccines, you have all these years of
That was a lot of scientists had that same concern. They're like, this is going really fast and we're approving it really fast. Everybody thought it was trepidatious of how fast it was going. So your concerns are perfectly valid there. We expect decades worth of testing. I mean, they have monitoring systems. So every vaccine, anybody who gets the vaccine and doctors, they have a reporting system. So anybody who wants to can say, I had this adverse reaction, and it's tied to that vaccine forever. So that's part of the monitoring system behind vaccines. They make sure that they're safe and continually make sure that they're safe. If they're not safe, they start getting reports, we're having problems, they will withdraw that vaccine.
I don't know, Mark. My prediction is in 3 years, they are going to come back and say, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the reason that I don't think that's ever going to happen is because you have to know what the vaccine is. So just saying a vaccine, that does sound scary, but this is just an mRNA. So if you understand what an mRNA is and how long that lasts in the body, you really don't have to worry about it at all.
Explain how explain different like vaccines. How do they work? Like a flu one and then a COVID one.
Okay. So the flu vaccine is produced in eggs. I guess some of them are. Let's go to the COVID vaccine, the mRNA. Stick on that real quick. So the COVID vaccine is a new type of vaccine. It's an mRNA vaccine, which won the Nobel Prize this year or last year. I should know that. But it just won the Nobel Prize. So an mRNA is different from a lot of other vaccines that use proteins. An mRNA is a sequence that codes for a protein. So they looked at the COVID virus and they said, what part of that virus do we need to show our immune system so our immune system will recognize it and be able to attack it whenever it comes into our system? So they make the mRNA that codes for one of those proteins, the spike protein usually. And then they put that mRNA in a lipid nanoparticle, which is basically just a fancy word for a fatty little vesicle, a vesicle of fats.
Like a fat.
Yeah. No. So they put the mRNA in this little vesicle, and that vesicle is got the similar composition to our cell's membrane, so it can get into our cells. So all it does is basically just release that mRNA into your cells. And then that mRNA gets read and turned into a little protein that our immune system can recognize and then amp up the response to that. That's the general principle for all vaccines, is just getting your immune system to recognize a certain protein on a virus. That's the basis of most vaccines, at least.
When making a vaccine, because we always hear, like you mentioned, like how they do the testing, but how does a vaccine fail? Or like, how can it be like really, really bad? Like, can it kill you? Like if someone made like a bad one? Or like, how would it kill you?
Most of the times it's based on it. The lethality comes from the response of your immune system. So if you create something that your immune system says, this is really crazy, and it just goes nuts and starts attacking things inside your own body. So it might look like something that's already inside you. So your immune system starts amping up production against your own cells. So they call it autoimmune response. So it's like attacking yourself. So that's where the danger from a vaccine comes from, is your immune system attacking yourself.
Oh, okay. So you don't want it. You want it to attack, but you also don't want it to like.
Yeah, you can't. It's got to be something dissimilar from what's already inside you. Otherwise, if it's something already inside you, your immune system most of the time will just ignore it, and the vaccine will do nothing.
Okay.
So that's the other, really, probably the harder part to do.
Your fault for being born sick.
It's harder. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
People.
Pharmaceuticals never lose.
there's a no. There are components of vaccines. They used to have some components in them that were not good for you, and they've removed those, but they weren't like usually in any kind of lethal levels or anything.
Just when they said it's a little more toxic, like some of the stuff.
Yeah, like say like a mercury type, like a heavy metal or something like that.
Okay.
Those are not good for you, but they were in such small quantities that it would not have made a big would not have made a big difference.
I'm gonna jump into like more of an ethics part. Now I can stick with that one, like medicine, vaccines, all that stuff we do, skincare, everything. You know, trying to live longer. Some people say that's going against nature or against whatever they say. Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
All medicine is going against nature. I mean, we naturally should not live past 20 or 30. I mean, back in the early 1900s, like most people would probably not live. I mean, child mortality before you're 5 years old, I mean, was over 10% of kids would be dead before they're 5.
Also because of when you just talk about like sanitary conditions.
Yeah, lots of different things.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's against nature, like getting clean.
Using soap. Yeah.
It is it though, because it's so.
You're killing bacteria when you do that.
Would that be against nature too? Because do animals do that? Like, are they making soap or all that? But is it bad? Is it bad the stuff people are doing, like trying to live longer, going against mechanical stuff, surgeries? Because technically, I said like I wouldn't be alive either. But like, is it a bad thing that we're doing?
I guess for me it is bad within. No, I'm not saying it's bad. It's like your question is coming. Is it bad within what context? Is it bad for who or for what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you're asking me like, is it bad for me? This might sound too self-centered. I don't care because at the end it doesn't affect me.
Okay, I'm trying to
that scale.
Okay, let me see. I'm gonna speak for like people that are more like naturalistic. They're like, oh no, people say, oh yeah, when they hear about no, it's survival of the fittest. Oh, we gotta eat natural this or this is this
organic, gluten-free.
Yeah, stuff like kind of. You hear that stuff.
Yeah.
Or they're saying no, we gotta, live how we lived back then. But I don't know. I feel like I'd rather have like a bathroom versus like being outside.
I guess it depends because I understand what you mean, but I don't think, and I'm speaking for me, if I think let's live like we used to live back then, I might be referring like within a nutritional standpoint.
Like the paleo diet is a thing. Yeah.
For me, it will be more like the less ultra processed food, the better. It's getting closer to how it used to be. Like cooking your food, using the fat that is on the animal that you are eating.
But
most like that for me will be like living like back then. It wouldn't be like, let's get rid of electricity and let's get rid of cars and just walk. It wouldn't be like that.
But you mentioned the food that it could be like bad, but now like people, like in the grains or rice, it's fortified now, which is actually helped out a lot of people in other countries. And when we say like cooking, but how far back though? Because ancestors before that, they didn't cook. Like a lot of animals don't do that. So like when they say
we are not animals.
We are animals, but
are we that different though from the animals? Like,
our digestive systems. We're omnivores, so we can eat plants and animals, and that's why
there's animals that are omnivores too, right?
Oh,
dogs.
Yeah.
Dogs are one.
Deer will eat mice. I mean, most animals will eat a little bit of meat.
You're a little different too within the region that you are born in, and I guess it takes a little time for you to adjust. But still, like within society or like cultures, we are a little different between humans too.
True. But are we that different? Because we could see there's different views. Like with animals, for example, we can see like, oh snap, it looks like we are very different, but are we also like same, or are we completely just different?
It depends where you are asking this from.
Because
You have to look at the genetics. That's going to tell you what's actually going on in a system. It's all about the genes and the mutations that have occurred since our two species diverged. So some animals will have the same specific pathways that are the same as ours and have been conserved. So even fruit flies have the majority of their genes are the same as ours, or very similar to ours. So we can use them for testing medicines and pathways and things. So it really depends on the context. Which animals are you looking at, or plant or animal, and then which pathway are you looking at within them?
Yeah, I agree, because I am saying like it depends the context that you're asking now. If the question is what normally says, are we superior than other animals or another species? I will say we are as humans.
I hear
Our brains.
I hear the superior part sometimes, but I want to make a case, and I'm not saying the human race is horrible, but we're not the fastest. We're pretty technically slow at sprinting. We can't swim. We can't fly. If we were like by ourselves, and I would say me, if I was by myself in the woods with nothing, like no, you can't bring a gun or nothing like that, no shirts, nothing like that, I would probably die.
I think I mentioned this on the last one. The thing that makes us superior to everything else is simply our passing on of knowledge. We don't have to relearn how to make a wheel and how to make fire every single generation.
Even if our superiority results to that, we're so superior.
But why? I don't know about this. Oh, okay. But like, why are we like this? Like, how come?
Why did we pass on knowledge and no one else did?
Yeah.
It makes us whatever you want to see, because you say we're not the fastest. Definitely we're not the smartest. I talked to you about like how the octopus will if they live long enough, because they pass knowledge. They just don't live long enough.
Octopus pass knowledge?
Yes, they do.
Because they make like, is it more instinct?
Orcas do. They teach their young. Lots of species teach their young things. So it is not uncommon in the natural nature.
Why are we so
So
different?
if you think about it, and you have
We're better at it. Yeah.
Can encode us, that's a possibility.
Oh, the aliens?
Oh, they look like octopus. Tell me now.
No. Because have you seen?
They're smart.
What about that? Have you heard that theory? Okay, this is where like Prometheus, Alien all come from. The movies, Ridley Scott. They were saying that.
Wait.
Okay.
I just want to make a point. I think we're superior. I think, and you can tell me if I'm thinking wrong. I think there is a lot of guilt about assuming that as humans we're superior, because yes, there are a lot of predatory comportamientos.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of
Instincts. Yeah.
tendencies that we do. There is a lot of take advantage of our position as superior species. Is that bad that we are superior, or like is that a problem?
Part of the problem? There is a little bit of a problem. We're in any natural system, you have a predator and prey relationships, and if the predator can outcompete the prey, it kills off all the prey, and then the predator also goes extinct. And throughout all of natural history, this is actually pretty common. The coevolution of two species ends up causing the extinction of both of them because they're so reliant on the other. But for our position, being superior, we are dominant over every species. We are so dominant that we are causing what's called the sixth mass extinction, even though it's just there's been more than that. But so we're wiping out species so fast that only giant asteroids have wiped out species this fast. And as that predator-prey relationship analogy goes, everything is our prey.
Yes.
So when do we reach the point where that There's no fixing it, and we're going to go extinct along with all the others.
How many years we've been in Earth?
Like the humans?
Yeah,
Or
as a species.
Oh, about 200,000-300,000 years, but our numbers never really breached 10 million until roughly the 1800s or so.
industrial?
Yeah, late 1800s, early 1900s,
But
somewhere around in there.
that's what I am asking. Like, I understand that part, and we have made go extinct many
It
species.
was before that.
I know we have, but still, being superior, I think we can figure out a way to not go completely extinct, even when we are causing the sixth mass extinction. I don't think human beings are going to be wiped out.
No. But that's where the moral or ethical conundrums come in. Is do we care if we kill everything on the planet except us?
And I guess I want to say we do. Like, I don't think most of the people live their lives just like, oh, I don't care as long as I'm alive.
Yeah.
I think we do, and I think that's part of being superior too.
Understanding that
Is that
we need to save things.
yeah?
Yeah.
But is that a problem? Like when we say yes, we're superior. Like, why? And I understand that part, the extinction part, but still, we even with the bad things about ourselves, and I'm not talking about the individuals as society, human beings. We still have good things that make us superior. We are not able to fly by ourselves, but we have figured out how to fly.
Yeah.
We're not able to be the fastest by ourselves, but we have figured out how to be faster in different contexts. I don't think any species in the earth is superior than us, even when they are faster, they are stronger. I wouldn't go out and fight a gorilla or a bear. I wouldn't even fight a cat. If it's not enough, that will kill me.
But like, why, like throughout, how old is the Earth?
4.5 billion.
It does depend.
That's not true. The Bible doesn't say anything about how
Yep.
old is there.
That number is generally ascribed to it was
Doesn't say 10,000. The Bible?
No.
they basically just did a genealogy and counted up how old people were at each person they mentioned in the Bible.
So
They added it up and it said it was 6,000.
That's what
That's where their numbers.
Yeah,
are.
but there is not an exact number. I'm just joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said how many millions?
4.5 billion roughly.
And then like since life started, probably like when
Life actually started much quicker than we had thought 20 years ago. Now there's evidence of life in the rocks at already about 4.3 billion.
Now with that,
I'm thinking about that. For a human being, when life starts, because we start counting our age as soon as we're out of the womb. When it starts, does it start as soon as the sperm gets into the egg? Or is
The sperm and the egg are both alive. So
no, or life?
life is
Yeah.
No. Humans. The sperm and the egg are both alive. Single cell is alive.
It's like you have been alive since the sperm and the egg got together, or
oh, are you saying like, for example, if I'm 29,
Am I 29 in 9 months?
yeah, or does that,
well,
yeah, is that what you're trying to ask?
I'm trying to ask kind of something like that.
Oh, like when does a human become, like when do we start counting our age?
When are we actually more human than
I
or
think how like would you say you were alive as soon as the egg and the sperm got together? Will you say you are alive as soon as we have the chromosomes?
so maybe more of the person of you?
Or as soon as you, not the person of you, the human you?
Oh, when are we considered alive?
Because I can scratch my arm and there's cells that will be alive there.
Yeah.
I mean,
But like,
but that's not really, it's part of me, but not really the conscious so-called.
I got
Yeah.
it. Mark, so at each point since conception, what part are you seeing? Hey, you know what? I'm alive? Like this is a human part, right? That one, am I getting that?
It's kind of, it's because you're saying like he was live in the rocks. I understand that part, but this might sound too bad. Like life that matters. At what point is done?
Well, switch.
And that's
No, I'm not switching.
Oh, okay. You just
subject. That's context and subjectivity probably, but every cell is a living cell. That's how we define life.
I got it.
Yeah.
Here, let's get Mark's explanation. What is, in like for example, science? What's considered life?
So life is defined by 7 different things, but the main one is all life is composed of cells. So cells are these little vessels that have DNA and RNA and protein and lipids, the 4 organic molecules. Anything that, and it also will replicate and do some other things. But basically, the main thing is everything is made of cells.
That's why they say viruses are not. They're not living.
Viruses are not alive.
And I always confuse that. I was wondering, well, how is it not living if it's moving and this and that? But then I thought about it, and maybe this is a good analogy, like a machine. It's always moving, but technically it's not alive. So
viruses cannot replicate themselves. They have to hijack your system to replicate.
So like cells, they can replicate by themselves, and that's considered life.
Yep.
So that's the part I wanted.
That's why I say life that matters.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're trying to get at a definition that we don't really have a term for, I think.
Because I was just asking.
I guess because life is a really big spectrum. Because
I think like some people are very, very protective of animals. I mean, we spend billions of dollars on our pets. Do pets matter?
to contact.
Yeah.
Pet might matter to you, but not to me.
And it could be also the same thing throughout human history.
But by that reasoning, people kill each other all the time,
Yes.
so they don't matter.
I'm talking in a
Wars and
context.
letting people starve to death.
Even with kids. Like, if you ask me right now, I will like to protect all kids. But if you ask me, I will save 3 kids or my child, I'm going to save mine.
Yeah.
Even when that means
That's biology right there.
Thing, because same thing with species or with
Evolution drives you to protect your own DNA. That's the only really. It's not even really a goal. It's just random. But since the beginning of life, 4.3 billion years ago, what does life do? It reproduces itself. That is the only thing life is really. Reproduction is one of the key things of the definition of life. That's what it does, is it reproduces itself. So if the things that have the DNA closest to yours are the things that are going to be passed on to the next generation. And that's what the only reason you will matter in the future is if your DNA survives.
And that's what it is. Because they're just they want to pass on. Well, like if you
I understand that part. I was like, I was putting an example that yes, everything matters according to the context, but like life that matters, it's what I mean, like something that is significantly probably because.
And that's going to be based on society. Society will determine, whichever society you live in will determine that. So it's going to, your group, the bigger the group, you get together, you say, hey, this is how we're going to define this or that. Some would say, some societies think women should be totally clothed and masked and everything, never see the daylight. So, I mean, that's all society.
Just go back to what I was trying to say. Like, you said life has been here
4.3 billion.
With that time, that whole entire time, each species, each cell, this and that, how come, like us humans, like, why are we, you feel me? Like I feel like we're really, really different. How come like other species haven't done that? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we going to space? why are we preserving animals? Why are we doing this? Why am I thinking about it? But has other animals
fear.
but like
There's actually a really, really great quote about this. It goes, it's from Westworld. Anthony Hopkins is saying that he heard a theory once that said the human intellect is like peacock feathers, just an elaborate display intended to attract a mate. All of art, literature, Beethoven, Mozart, just an elaborate mating. That's really where the intellect comes from, because the whole point is you're trying to pass on your DNA.
I agree.
All of everything we do is based on passing on our DNA. Even though we might not think it directly is, but how do you pass on your DNA? You survive and reproduce.
Kind of integrating our biology,
Absolutely.
whatever.
Every gene,
Since the moment you are born,
if your genes are not driving you to reproduce, that DNA does not get passed on, you go extinct. So what gets passed on are all the genes that say reproduce, reproduce, reproduce. That desire is encoded basically in the DNA.
Now, is that our purpose, or is purpose like a man-made thing?
There is no purpose. The purpose, there's no, it's just random. I mean, it just is. It's like it's a chemical reaction. That's what life is, a branch of chemistry. So when you add water and salt together, that sodium and chloride that makes up the salt will dissolve and come apart. That's just a law of nature. That's what happens. The same thing for all of the biology in our cells. It's just these chemical reactions. That's the scale they are. They're atoms and molecules. So there's no purpose behind, hey, I'm sodium or I'm chloride. I need to split apart when I get in water. There's no purpose there. It's just a chemical reaction. See what I'm saying? And that's what all of your cells are, just chemical reactions. It's just that some of those chemical reactions get passed on because that's the coding in the DNA. And this gives it a survival and reproductive advantage. So it gets passed on.
I thought you were going to say, our purpose is, figuring out the knowledge of the universe, aliens, stuff that I'll do.
We're just the chemical reactions, unfortunately.
Yeah. But could it change? Because I like talking about the sci-fi stuff. If an alien, they said, hey, we actually created humans. I'm telling you, this is from Prometheus. It's not real. But they said, hey, we took some, we're the people.
We seeded the, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think the aliens are the Mayans. They figured out everything. They are here now.
Who's the who?
The Mayans.
The Mayans? What civilizations are you like? I don't know. I want to say
most interested in?
Yeah, interested in.
I really like for earliest civilizations. So the Sumerians are kind of my thing. I enjoy reading about cuneiform, the first writing systems, and the Egyptians, and the Indus Valley, and the Yellow River in China, where the earliest civilizations started. I find everything up to about the Roman Empire is pretty interesting to me.
At least once a week, every day.
But I think about these other empires just as much. I think that's just
doesn't have to be equal to all the empires. They won't get offended. It's okay if you only think out everyone.
Yeah. Because before, we do.
Yes.
All right. I did want to. All right. This could be another round 3 then. But I would say this at the end. Is there any last words you guys want to give out?
Oh, I should have thought of something profound, but I don't.
Yeah, I had something profound to say, but kind of joking, so maybe not.
No worries. But we'll go back for a round 3.
No, you were going to say something.
Well, do we got time?
Before we...
Okay, I think we got time, just a little bit. Roman Empire, though, and think about it. What caused the collapse of it? Or what are some of the causes that Causes?
Yeah. It was a kind of a multi-tiered, slow roll collapse.
The degradation of society.
Yeah,
and it's not saying that from a conservative standpoint. I think it was.
It was concentration of wealth, slavery, whole other Vandals, and Vandals being the actual Vandals, not Vandals like vandalizing things. Other empires, other tribes, encroachment. It was multifactorial.
I think that plays part of it, because when you weak your society, you are more susceptible to be derrocado. What is that?
Just degraded?
Not degraded. Like, they will beat you up because you are not that strong anymore.
But what causes a civilization? Because you're all at
Decay?
peak, and then just does that
Well,
happen?
it was a slow decline. The Roman Empire didn't die in a day. It took
If you think
Long
about it, who crucified Jesus?
The Romans or the Jews?
No, it was the Romans play part of it. So I'm saying
Weren't they
that
just following directions
that.
though?
But the Roman Empire lasted hundreds of years after that.
Yeah, but then they were gone. I'm just saying.
Every empire is gone
Are
eventually.
we gonna be gone? You think, or is it
Yeah.
more different?
The United States will turn into something different, but the countries and the peoples, the DNA is still there. the DNA will still be there. That's every empire just changes perspectives and thoughts, and you end up with something hopefully better. Hopefully we'll have a world that can get united and not have to have these little governments bickering all the time, and just have
Young Lena.
like something like that. The UN was a good attempt. The European Union's a good attempt. The United States is uniting different states is a good attempt. So each time we do this, hopefully we learn some new things that help everybody. Maybe the next iteration will be the one that can hold. And then a lot of our problems will go away.
There you go. I like the last words he said. All right, let's end this. Thank you guys.
Hey, thanks for having me.